What's up, boxing fans? This is TBE Boxing, back at you again. Today's topic, Goliath. Caleb Plant rages against the gods of boxing and the corrupt Canelo Eddie Reynoso machine. Let's chop it up and see what it's all about.
Got the money for minutes, pretty bitch, gotta show me titties. This is the life that I chose, huh? On the block with the pole, huh? This is the life that I chose, huh? On the block with the pole, huh? That life before riches, huh? That life before riches, huh? Pretty bitch, show me titties, huh? And I got the glazzy run up on me, I'ma make you get it. I'ma make you get it.
Okay, boxing fans, let's talk some boxing. We're gonna talk about this upcoming fight. It's gonna be tomorrow, November the 6th, between Saul Canelo Alvarez and Caleb Sweet Hands Plant. All right, so there's a lot of build up to this fight. They did PBC, the networks. They did like two different all access, a lot of promotion, a lot of marketing going on. And for the most part, the general conception in the boxing industry at this point is that Canelo is going to win this fight. It's basically it's a walk in the park for Canelo, according to the most of the boxing fans, the boxing industry, the boxing promoters, trainers, and so forth and so on. So basically, everyone is seeing this fight as a fight that Canelo will definitely win. Just another rock or a pebble in the way on this road to undisputed, as far as they're concerned. So basically what I'm saying is that for the most part, everyone thinks that Canelo will win this fight, and that's the general consensus, when we look at what's going on. Now, the question we have to ask ourselves in this situation, is that the case? I mean, is Canelo really a shoo-in to win this fight? And, will he just basically, walk right through Caleb Plant and, on his way to undisputed, which is what most people think is going to happen. Okay, I mean, all you have to do is go and listen to some of the comments that you hear people making and watch some of these people on YouTube and even the media, people in the media. Now, there's a lot of reasons for that, okay, for that way of thinking. And, basically Canelo has been, walking his way through, the various divisions, after his one and only defeat to a legendary boxer, Floyd Mayweather Jr. And that's the only defeat on Canelo's record at, to this point. So since that defeat, Canelo has, never really fought anybody that close to their prime, even though Mayweather was kind of past his prime, but he was still good enough to defeat Canelo. But in the next fighter he fought, in that type of fight was Erislandy Lara, and that a lot of people will say that Erislandy Lara won that fight. That fight was debatable as to who actually won, according to some some people. Me personally, I thought Lara was winning the fight until he started. I think he did a little bit too much movement, I would think, in that fight. That didn't look good to the judges, even though I would think that realistically Lara probably won that fight. Okay. But excuse me, with the extra movement that he was doing, that is Lara, that probably didn't look too well on the judges' card, and some judges will probably use it as an excuse to not give him a fight. So, I'm saying all of that to say that for the most part, everybody's expecting Canelo to win this fight, and that basically they don't see Caleb Plant having any chance whatsoever. Now, I'm gonna beg to differ. Okay, now, previously I was of the opinion that Caleb Plant doesn't have a chance against Canelo. That was my, opinion previously. And I based that on several factors. One, in that, Caleb Plant hasn't really fought anybody to the caliber to where we can say he's prepared to fight against a guy like Canelo. And that hasn't really changed, even though my opinion has changed. That fact hasn't actually changed. It's still the same fact. He actually hasn't fought anybody that can, really prepare him for a guy like Canelo, But despite that fact, the one thing that that Canelo does have, and are the things that Caleb Plant does have in his favor. And he mentioned one. He reminded me of one the other day when I heard him speaking, and it made me started thinking. He said that what he actually said in the interview was that someone asked him about Canelo, and he said and other fighters and how he walked through a lot of other fighters, and Caleb Plant basically said, well, I'm a natural super middleweight. And I thought about that for a minute. I said, he's right about that. Okay, I mean, he is a natural, super middleweight. I don't think, I mean, not only is a natural super middleweight, but he's a natural super middleweight that can move, which is a key factor in if you're going to fight Canelo, because I think the way Canelo was defeated by Mayweather was still a combination of factors. One being that, one of the main factors being the footwork of Mayweather, okay, being able to get in and out of range, side to side movement, going, moving around the ring, just movement in general, and the ability to walk forward on Canelo and to punch in between Canelo punches, okay? In other words, use his superior boxing IQ and skills to basically just outbox Canelo, okay? And I am thinking that from watching Caleb Plant, he's just he's basically a bigger version of Mayweather. Now, we don't know how good Caleb Plant is, if he's as good as Mayweather in terms of his boxing skills, like I've said, because he hasn't really fought anybody that we could measure him against. And this is probably going to be his first real test in terms of how good of a boxer he actually is. We have seen him against people out there who were, fairly good. Okay, Ostakage and a couple other people, and he did look pretty good boxing, going backwards, coming forward, side to side, lateral movement. He looks pretty good. I mean, against those guys with the skills that he displays. Now, whether he can, do that at a higher level, we're going to see in this Canelo fight, and this is going to be the test, okay? But after watching Caleb Plant, I'm going to go ahead and make a prediction and say that I think that Caleb Plant can win this fight against Canelo. I think he should win this fight, and more than likely, he will probably win this fight against Canelo. And you ask me, well, why do I say that? Based on everything we know about Canelo and all the fighters that have come up against him so far and what he has done to them. Well, I think the main factor why I'm saying that I think that Caleb Plant is going to win this fight, again, it goes back to boxing skills. Okay? I think he has first of all, he has the tools, meaning he has the height, the reach, the size, okay, to be able to beat Canelo. And he has the skills. And the most important skill that I see that he have in a fight against Canelo is defense. Okay? I've watched him and focused on his defense, and I think he's defensively responsible enough to be able to defeat Canelo. All he has to do is be defensively responsible for 12 rounds, which takes a lot of focus and concentration. Whether he has that type of focus and concentration, we don't know, but we're going to find out. And so that's what it's going to take to defeat Canelo. I think, that's how Mayweather beat Canelo. He was able to hit and not get hit. You see, a fighter could have all the skills and all the power and the strength and the speed that he wants, but if he can't hit the other opponent, then no matter how good you are, you're gonna have problems. And this is the way Mayweather was able to defeat many of his opponents. The fact that he was keeping his opponents to a 20% under 20% ratio, of misses to hits. Like, in other words, most of Mayweather's opponents was unable to pass the 20% threshold in terms of punches landed. Okay, they only hit Mayweather 20% of the time, while Mayweather's hitting them 40%, 50%, 35%. So if you can maintain that ratio where you're keeping fighters at a 20% or below ratio while you are hitting them, there's no way they can win. It's impossible, no matter how good they are. Okay, they can't win in that situation. This is how Mayweather beat most of his opponents, through defense. Okay, defense is the key factor why Mayweather retired undefeated. Okay, and that was the key factor in every fight he had, why he was able to defeat all of his opponents. That is defense, because you're keeping these guys at a ratio 20% and below. At that ratio of 20% punches landed, how can they possibly win? It's impossible. They can't win with 20%, and you're landing 30-40% ratio of your punches. Okay, and even the 20% of the punches that land, they don't land solidly on Mayweather. Okay, he's slipping half of those. He's rolling with half of those punches and taking some of the fire off a lot of those punches by his movement. Okay, so he doesn't even get hit solidly, even when the people are landing 20% of the punches on him. Even that 20% is not a full 20%, because the punches are not landing solidly. He rarely gets hit with a solid punch. Okay, so Mayweather might get hit with a solid punch 10% of the time if the other fighter is lucky. So in that kind of environment, it's hard to lose. And I think if Caleb Plant can do something similar to what Mayweather does in terms of keeping Canelo to a 20 to 25% ratio of punches landed, he should be able to beat Canelo with his boxing skills. And so I'm predicting that if Caleb Plant can focus and concentrate for 12 rounds and use his boxing skills, use his defense, he will upset and defeat Canelo Alvarez in this fight coming up on November 6th, Saturday, which is tomorrow. And remember, you heard it here first. Okay? You heard it from TBE Boxing. Okay? That's my prediction. So, now that I've predicted the fight, let's talk about what Caleb Plant is up against, okay? Because Caleb Plant is not just up against Canelo, he's up against the whole boxing industry. Okay, he's up against the boxing fans, the boxing judges. He's up against the entitlement that Canelo, seems to have with the boxing media and the boxing industry. He's up against Las Vegas, the TV networks. He's up against the boxing pundits. He's up against Reynoso meats, Reynoso herbal teas, Reynoso PEDs. So Caleb Plant is up against a lot in this fight. He's up against, practically, everything. Okay, everything is on the side of Canelo, and all these networks and the big money in boxing, they want Canelo to win to keep the hype train going, because as long as Canelo is winning, especially if Canelo wins undisputed, now they have something real that can really market and blow Canelo up into the stratosphere, because they're already talking about Canelo is the #1 undisputed fighter in the world. It seems like nobody talk in all these media outlets, and all these people are talking about the fact that Canelo and his Canelo camp, Reynoso, Team Reynoso, are basically adrift in a sea of PEDs over there at that camp. A lot of funny business going on over there, but nobody's talking about that in the media per se. Or say, it only comes up when Caleb Plant brings it up. But this is what Caleb Plant is up against. He's up against the whole boxing, world, the whole boxing universe, basically. Everybody in boxing wants to get a ride on the Canelo hype train, and they want to, and for them to get a ride, the hype train got to keep on rolling. So the only thing that's standing in the way of that hype train rolling on is a little guy called Caleb Sweet Ham Plant. And so, don't think that the boxing world is going to just roll over and let Plant just walk in there and stop this hype train and, all that money that's invested in it. And, for now and for the future, it's going to be a tough thing for Caleb Plant to accomplish in defeating Canelo. he's up against it in a major way. And rarely do we see something like this in boxing, where we have a guy who's an underdog in so many different ways and so many, I mean, it's almost unbelievable how much of an underdog Caleb Plant really is. Because, like I said, it's not just about him fighting Canelo, being an underdog, against Canelo. It's about him fighting the whole boxing industry, okay? The whole boxing world, the boxing universe, all the big money in boxing, the networks, Las Vegas, okay? All of this is on the side of Canelo, because Canelo is the money train. He's bringing the money, and they want that money to keep on rolling. Okay, they want that train to keep on rolling, to keep that money coming in. And here we have Caleb Plant trying to stop that money train from rolling. So he's up against it, for real, people. This is what we are talking about. And so, the fact that Caleb Plant can maintain his composure and, his belief in himself under such circumstances, says a lot about him as a person. And, at this point, I got to admit that every time I see this guy and he's up there talking about the fight, and he's, people ask him all these questions and he's answering them, and he seems to be confident, and his confidence is becoming infectious, okay? You can't help but feel confident with him, okay? Just by the way he's talking, and he's very composed, and he seems very confident, and he's so confident that you want to believe him, okay? And I can feel that energy. So I see that based on the fact of his supreme confidence himself, or at least he's displaying that he's supremely confident. We don't know what he actually feels inside, but just by looking at him and listening to him talk, I believe that he's confident that he can win this fight. Whether he can win the fight or not, we're going to see. But I believe in his confidence in himself. Okay, I think he's really confident in himself. I believe that he's going to, like Dennis Ugas in the Manny Pacquiao fight, I believe that Caleb Plant is going to rise to the occasion. Okay, I think he's, has enough belief in himself to the point where this is the opportunity of a lifetime for him, just like it was for Jordanis Ugas. And I think Caleb Plant is going to rise to the occasion and put the performance of a lifetime. And I think as boxing fans, we're all privileged to be able to witness this fight that's coming up, because it should be a great fight, based on everything that we know so far. And again, I'm definitely looking forward to see how Caleb Plant is going to perform in this fight. If he, just talk, or if he can be the one guy that, can disrupt the Canelo Alvarez hype train, or slow it down, stop it, throw it off the tracks or whatever. So we're going to see if Caleb Plant can do that. And I'm going to ride with Caleb Plant on this one, because I don't really like, the corruption I see going on in terms of, PEDs and the arrogance of the Reynoso Canelo machine. These guys act like they own boxing. I don't really like that. All this talk about Canelo being the greatest and number one pound for pound fighter, even though all these questions are out there about his his honesty and his honor when it comes to using performance enhancing substances and drugs. So I'm not really a fan of none of that stuff. I don't like it. I don't like that people are ignoring it. Okay, and so I'm gonna ride with the Plant on this one, because I think that Plant is on the right path. I think he's fighting for the right reasons, and I think that the arrogance and the entitlement of Canelo and Team Reynoso is more than it's more than ridiculous at this point in time. I think they're going too far. They have never answered any of the questions about the PEDs when the media asks them. They just ignore it as if it doesn't exist. Okay, and just keep talking arrogantly. I don't really like that. it should be addressed. Canelo should have apologized to the boxing public for his PED use. Okay, after he was suspended, when he came back, he should have apologized, you know, for letting that happen. Valdez should have been suspended, and he should have apologized, you know, to the boxing public for using PEDs. Okay, these guys are out there, you know, trying to take unfair advantages of other fighters, risking other fighters' lives, you know, with their cheating, and you know, I'm not with that at all. Okay, and those are the reasons why I'm gonna ride with Caleb Plant in this one. I hope that he can pull off this upset against Canelo and the corrupt Reynoso Canelo team, you know, and the boxing machine in general. Okay, so you know, with that being said, I'm gonna leave it there. You know, tomorrow can't come soon enough. We're gonna see what Caleb Plant can actually do, if he can actually, you know, execute the things that he needs to execute in the ring. Because at the end of the day, when it comes down to when you step into that ring, no matter what you know or what you don't know, when it comes down to when you step into that ring, is how you're gonna execute, you know, what your plan in the ring, and can you do that? And we have seen Canelo do it time after time. Let's see if Caleb Plant can do it this time under the big lights, okay, on the big stage, you know, against a guy like Canelo Alvarez. So again, with that being said, I'm going to leave it there. Make sure you like and subscribe to the channel, okay? Hit the bell icon so you can be notified of, you know, our latest videos that we upload, okay? Again, like and subscribe to the channel. That's the main thing that you need to do, okay? Make sure you make sure you watch that fight tomorrow. Should be a great fight. Let's see what man Caleb Sweethand Plant can do against the corrupt Eddie Reynoso Canelo Alvarez machine. Okay, let's see what could happen. And with that being said, people, this is TB Boxing saying I'm out.
Got the mind of a man, it's petty bitch, gotta show me titties. This is the life that I chose, huh? On the block with the pole, huh? This is the life that I chose, huh? On the block with the pole, huh? That life before riches, huh? That life before riches, huh? Pretty bitch, show me titties, huh? And I got the glazzy run up on me, I'ma make you get it. I'ma make you get it.